How's it going, Yankee fans? Welcome back to Fireside Yankees with your boys, Alex and Ryan. Today's episode, Josh Donaldson. Yesterday, obviously, the Yankees lose to the Dodgers, but we walk away with a pretty damn good performance from Joshy, who rolled back the clock and seemingly looked like his all-star self from years and years ago. Even the 2021 version of Josh Donaldson would be more than acceptable for this Yankee team, and I feel as though we saw a glimpse of maybe there is some juice left in the tank. Maybe there is some gas left there to extract, some value left to extract, and if Josh Donaldson can make a net positive, kind of impact offensively for the Yankees the rest of the 2023 season, I think we can easily confirm they won the trade with the Minnesota Twins, sending Gary, who's obviously off that team now, and then Gio Urshela, who's been decent, but, probably about an average player. And Isaiah Kiner-Falefa has kind of emerged this season as a kind of strange utility option for us, and he's still trying to find his footing and has a little bit inconsistent offensively as he always has been, but hopefully he can kind of continue to build his game and strategy up to this point. But Josh Donaldson yesterday, man, was absolutely electric. It's pretty exciting to see him come back from the hamstring injury and immediately hit 2 home runs. Like, that's the Josh Donaldson we've seen in the past. Obviously, last year was not that version of him. Am I buying Josh Donaldson's stock right now? No. Am I, kind of telling you I'm confident in him right now? Absolutely not. I need to see a lot more. A lot of players come back from injury and just have a really good game, and then things start to deteriorate after a week or so. So I need to see 2 to 3 weeks of consistent good play from Josh Donaldson before I am starting to buy stock in him. But I wanted to talk about the big performance. I want to talk about the bat speed and the power we saw yesterday, and if there's any value left there to get out of him. Ryan, before we dive into it, how you do today, my friend?
I'm doing well. One of the big things you discussed there that is important for us to mention is that we're talking about small sample sizes and we're not reaching conclusions here. We're just spitting out hypotheticals and kind of going through what we saw in spring training and what we've seen, in the early stages of the season so far, dating back to April when he hit that home run against the Giants, and then right now, of course. But here's the thing with Josh Donaldson, right? I don't know if you noticed this. He actually went back to his old stance from last year, which at first was concerning to me. I'm like, okay, the first stance looked like it was doing something for you in spring training, and you go back to your old ways. Like, that doesn't really seem to make much sense. But when you kind of take a deeper dive at it, right, what did Josh Donaldson struggle with last year, right? Because he was still able to hit the ball decently hard, right? Barrel rate of 9.8% is definitely down from 2021, but it's still above average. The hard hit rates, the quality of contact, they're all, again, still above average. So you're wondering, what really is the issue here? And the issue seems to be with generating hard contact in the air. At least that's what it was last year. And we're seeing that, not just in, last night's game, but when he was rehabbing as well, he was generating a lot of damage contact, but this time in the air, right? Now, hitting the ball hard is difficult on its own, right? You have to have a lot of raw power. You have to have a pretty good, efficient energy transfer from your lower body to the baseball. So, that's also tough as well. And then it gets even tougher when you're asked to do that while lifting the ball, because that's, again, pretty tough to do. So considering all of that, you need to have really good bat speed, but really good barrel accuracy. And what I'm kind of reaching as a conclusion here in terms of, what was wrong with Josh Donaldson last year has to do with barrel accuracy. And that's more of a mechanical thing, which is why I'm a little bit, encouraged by what we saw at the minor league level and what we saw so far in the regular season. And that's that Josh Donaldson is finding that consistently hard contact in the air. He's making good swing decisions. He had a 57.1% hard hit percentage with averaging 42.9% on his fly ball rate in AAA. He was able to generate damage contact in the air, obviously, yesterday with those 2 home runs. If Donaldson can continue to do that, that means that, one, his barrel accuracy has gotten better. He's getting his the barrel of the bat to the baseball more consistently. He's not just flailing at the baseball or, having a bad approach at the plate. Those are fine mechanical things. Those are just little tweaks you have to make. And Donaldson's a veteran. He's a seasoned veteran. He knows what he's doing in terms of, how to get in and out of slumps. I understand age and father time is undefeated, and if it's an age-related thing, then he will slump again because no one beats father time. But, I understand he's an unpopular player in the fan base. I understand there's a lot of frustration around him. I definitely am very frustrated with what Josh Donaldson has given the New York Yankees, considering the money he got. And as you mentioned, that trade, the Twins ended up signing Carlos Correa from that. So, obviously it stings more because the Yankees could have used a guy like Carlos Correa last year, especially with their shortstop problems. So, that would have been a nice fit. But, now that we're in 2023, 2023. We're a year removed from that situation. I think that giving Donaldson the same fair shake I've given other players that's the right way to look at this, right? There's a fan perspective, which is frustrated that the Yankees gave him that much money. And then there's the baseball operations and kind of the analysis perspective, which is Josh Donaldson's made tweaks to his game, and they're so far translating in spring training and the regular season. When he's rehabbing, he's just hit. Right? And I think that's going to account for something at some point. I'm very encouraged by what I saw last night. Again, it doesn't mean he's going to go out and, hit 30 home runs this year. But is there a chance that he goes out there and is just a productive hitter? That's really all you need from the third base position right now, because that's kind of quietly become a black hole for the Yankees, with LeMahieu regressing and him struggling the way he struggled, and just the way Donaldson struggled last year. So, I guess the question I'd spin back at you in regards to Josh Donaldson is, where do you think your confidence meter is at with him? Because I think I'm at a solid 5 right now, and, that's kind of, I don't know if that's optimistic or not, but yeah, I was just curious where your confidence is with him right now.
I mean, listen, it's one game, right? It's one game. How confident can we really be? A 5, I think, is you're heating up. It was a 0 yesterday before the game, and then it's a 5, and you're like, okay, like we see the power return, we see the barrel return, we see the bat speed is there, and you're like, wait a second, like it's still there, like he can still do this. It's not like it just disappeared. It's not like it's gone. It's not like Father Time has taken it away from him. It's still in there somewhere, as we saw, and that's the Josh Donaldson we need. Now, the question is, when he gets fatigued, when the injuries, maybe he has a couple nicks and knacks, can he play through those at this age, right? Like, that's kind of my biggest question is, if he has a little bit of an issue, he gets hit or he slides in and he hurts his toe or whatever it might be, the many different injuries and pain, the little bits of pain that players go through on a daily basis, can he fend those off to maintain what he's done in the past? Look, he's 37 years old, guys. Like, I'm not going to sit here and tell you I'm confident in Josh Donaldson being a consistently good player for us the rest of the way. There is one thing I think he will be, and I think he's going to be a good defender. He can still make some nice flashy plays. He can still throw the ball across the diamond very, very well. He's got a good arm. He's fast. He's smooth. Everything he does on the defensive side is certainly something to be optimistic about. But we saw the glimpse of bat speed. We saw the power. Like, it's in there somewhere. I just don't know how we can get it every day, or even we don't even need it every day. We need it every other day, or just enough to be a serviceable player for us that could be a net positive offensively. We can't afford. Look, the reality is this: the Yankees aren't going to lose a playoff game because of their pitching. They're not going to lose a playoff game or a series, but because of anything but scoring runs. They suck at scoring runs in the playoffs, and I think we can all agree with that. Every single time the Yankees get jettisoned from the playoffs and kicked out and beaten by superior teams, it's because we can't put runs on the board. It's because we can't hit with runners in scoring position. I don't give an absolute crap if Josh Donaldson's good at defense on third base, because the truth is, if we don't have a good third baseman who can hit and provide when it really matters and come up big, it doesn't matter at the end of the day. You know what I mean? Like, of course you want good defense. Of course you want good pitching. The Yankees have that. DJ LeMahieu was a tremendous defensive player on the hot corner, and he's a better offensive player at this point in his career than Josh Donaldson, despite the elevated strikeout rate and his on-base percentage not really looking normal. But I think he'll recover. Josh, one game in, my confidence level in him is a 3. And the reason that is because, 1, the sample size is too small. 2, we saw him do stuff like this last year. He saw glimpses of it. It just showed up. And this was an away game in LA. So I want to see him go to do it in the Bronx, where he struggled the most last year. In the Bronx, where the people are screaming and they're booing him after a strikeout, and he can fend off the mental aspects of it. Because last year, you don't take that much of a drop off, in my opinion. I don't know if, Ryan, if you agree with that. I know Father Time is undefeated, but last year's numbers were the worst in his career by a significant margin, and your things don't fall off that fast for a player who's been perennially great, over the course of a 10-year career. So it seemed like it was more mental to me than it was physical, because we've seen the glimpses, we've seen the flashes. What do you think about that? Do you think most of his weaknesses, or at least the liabilities he's shown, have been more mental, or do you think it's more physical at this point in time? I still think the physical traits are there. I just think mentally he got in his own head maybe, and the strikeout rates and the barrel rates were just increasing because of it.
Yeah, I don't disagree with you on the aspect of, the physical tools still seem to be there, right? Like, I think it's weird for a guy to get worse offensively and then go from below average defensively to, hey, this guy should have won the American League Gold Glove at the third base position. That's typically not how age regression works. Typically, you would expect defense to go first, actually, because it relies a little bit more on athleticism, right? So I actually fully agree with you on this aspect of, I think it was mental. I was doing an article on Cody Bellinger, and, I'm I'm about done with it, so that should be out at some point. But he was talking about the Dodgers are a competitive team, so it's hard to make changes, that you want to stick with. You feel like you're making changes on the fly because you just want to go out there and contribute. For Josh Donaldson, he's not going to make massive tweaks in season and risk, being even worse, right? And on a World Series contender, there's not a lot of room for you to go out there and experiment because every single game matters so much. And I think that's a part of baseball that not a lot of people talk about. Baseball is a very unique game in the sense that it's a 162 game season, guys. You are playing every day, or at least 5 or 6 days a week, right? It's not like the NBA where you've got 3 games, you've got an off day between. You're usually not playing back to backs. Those are rare occasions. In the NFL, you have an entire week in between games. Typically, I know that there's some times where you have that Sunday to Thursday night game, but typically that's followed by like a bye week or something like that. So, baseball's a very unique sport, and it's one of those things where any adjustments that Josh Donaldson has made over the offseason, he's gonna have to prove it on the field that those changes he's able to sustain, he's able to get good performance from. But from the standpoint of being open to the idea that Josh Donaldson can improve, I am open to that idea. And I think that doesn't mean that you believe he's going to be back. But that just means that you're open to the possibility and that you believe that there is a variance of outcomes, and one of those outcomes could be Josh Donaldson performing well. And I actually think it's interesting that he still projects to be a pretty decent hitter. It's not blow your socks off good stats, but in terms of like steamer, he's projected for a 105 WRC plus for the rest of the season. The bat X goes as high as 114, right? If you get that bat X outcome of a 114 WRC plus for the remainder of the season, I think you and I would be more than happy with that, considering on top of that, he's probably going to play good defense, but more so the fact that a 115 to, WRC plus hitter at like your 6th or 7th spot is pretty nice. You assume the Yankees are going to add a bat at the deadline, but, all things considered, you just need Josh Donaldson to do enough, right? That doesn't necessarily mean, 2015 MVP form or go out there and make the All-Star team, but it's just be better than bad. The contract is what the contract is. You can't change it. There's nothing we can do about the contract right now. You just got to hope he can perform a little bit. And, all mistakes can be forgotten. All, bad issues, all attention, all hatred can be let go if you contribute to a World Series, right? Like, end of the day, what is the narrative for Josh Donaldson if the New York Yankees would have won the World Series and he was playing third base for that final out? I don't think the narrative is that Josh Donaldson sucks. I think the narrative would be, hey, he's a World Series champion. There are plenty of players who can tell you that, the narrative around them changed the second they won a title. Not saying that this team is going to win the World Series, but again, contributing to winning is the easiest way to get all that stuff washed away, even if on paper at the end of the day you weren't worth your contract. So, I'm just open to the idea that he can get better. And I agree with your take that it's a mental aspect. I don't think it's as much physical.
Yeah, I think that's the right thing to say. I think what you said there was spot on in the sense that winning cures all, and I think everyone can agree with that. If the Yankees win, they win a World Series, even if they make it to the World Series and Josh Donaldson contributes positively to that, I think we can walk away from Josh this season and say, you know what, like, you provided some value. Again, very, very low amount of confidence on my part right now. I know you're a little bit higher in terms of confidence than me, but, I just don't know if he can sustain that type of production. Last year, look, yesterday he had 2 homers, right? 3 RBIs, 2 homers. That is an anomaly for any player. Even Aaron Judge, that's like an anomaly, 2 home runs. I mean, less than an anomaly for Judge than most others, but it's still a rarity. Josh Donaldson, it's a freaking shot in the dark, 2 homers in a single game at this point in his career. So it seems to me like it was just a one-off. I need to see more. I need to see more hard hit balls. I need to see more base hits. I need to see more defensive plays. I need to see more. Just more. It's one freaking game. I'm not getting over it. And I wanted to address this kind of topic because I know a lot of people are going to say, wait a second, like, is Josh Donaldson back? And believe me, like, I saw the stats and I was like, maybe there's some juice left in the tank. And we're here to tell you that maybe there is, and we're going to keep a close eye on it, but not to get ahead of ourselves just yet because it is very, very early in this process. And we want to see a much bigger sample size, guys. But as always, I'd love to hear your perspectives below in the YouTube comments. Make sure to like and subscribe as always, and we'll catch you guys on the next Fireside Yankees episode.